Matt, the next topic here is an interesting one to me, which is Tanner Scott. And the question has been, okay, the Dodgers signed Tanner Scott. They signed Kirby Yates. They've got 6 dudes who are closer type material, I would say, in the back. And there has been a discussion among us on our show, among other places, on who is going to actually close games for the Dodgers. Well, Dave Roberts and Brandon Gomes both indicating that it's probably going to be Tanner Scott. Are you surprised that the Dodgers are going to, at least in theory, name somebody the closer? And if so, are you surprised that it's Scott?
I've gone back and forth on this. On one hand, I'm a little surprised that, so when at Tanner Scott's press conference, this question did get brought up, and Brandon Gomes said Tanner Scott's going to get, certainly a lot of save opportunities, but he also stopped short of calling him the closer. And then, as you mentioned, Dave Roberts then went, I believe it was with MLB Network Radio, said Tanner Scott's going to be our closer to begin the season. And so I'm a little surprised, on one hand, that they are committing to just one relief pitcher, because we've seen multiple seasons now of them sort of keeping the door open, even if we know that, okay, so-and-so is the de facto closer, but they're not necessarily saying it. Like, I thought that was just what we were going to get with Tanner Scott. The fact that they picked him again, like, I'm sort of surprised, but not surprised. Like, on one, he's your new 30-year-old relief pitcher that you paid big money to. Like,
he's the most expensive guy out there, so it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. You're going to put him in the closer role. But on the other hand, and this is something I know we've discussed either on our shows or just kind of within our staff, amongst our staff, like, is he valuable? Sort of like a Blake Trinan, where if you're in a high leverage situation in the 6th or 7th inning, then you want to be able to use Tanner Scott as well. And that, like, now sort of naming him the closer, I think eliminates that opportunity. And I also thought, just from the standpoint of a workload perspective, if the Dodgers have all these different relief pitchers who you basically can trust equally to get saves, at least to begin the season, right? Like, roll them all out there. If one or two seem to grab hold of it better than the others, then okay, adjust. I thought that would make sense just to get through a long year. But yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to hedge. Like, I am surprised, but I'm not surprised, but I am surprised, but I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm with you. It doesn't surprise me that they named the guy they paid the most money to be their quote-unquote closer. I would be surprised if they actually had a closer and not multiple guys. I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. The Dodgers had 5 players who registered 2 or more saves last season. Do you know who led the Dodgers in saves last year, Matt?
I believe I do, because I wrote it in an article that I got ready. I think it's Evan Phillips. Okay. The number was 18, right?
18 for Evan Phillips. Do you know who was second on the Dodgers in saves?
Yes, I do, because I also wrote that. Daniel Hudson, I believe.
Don't tell people you wrote the article. Just be like, let's see. I'm going to guess. Yes, Daniel Hudson was second. You wrote the article. So now we're going to be mad if you don't get 3, 4, and 5. Do you know who was third on the Dodgers in saves?
This one I don't, because I stopped at naming who had the most and who was second most.
There's one person with 6, one person with 5, and one person with 2. One of the 3 names will surprise you.
So Kopech
was third. He had 6.
Okay. So now I need 2 more.
2 more.
Trinan, did he end up cracking
Trinan did not. He might have been on the list of 1. There's 9 guys who had 1 save. Dinelson Lamet on the list of guys who had 1 save, by the way. So
okay. There you go. I thought you were going to say he was one of the...
He was not 2, but he was only 1 behind. So we've got a guy with 5 and a guy with 2.
Vesia
was 5.
So I need the person that had the 4th one.
So you got 1 through 4. So do you know who? There was only one other player on the Dodgers other than those 4 who had more than 1 save. This player had 2.
Still on the team?
Still on the team. Much to my chagrin.
I guess Banda.
Banda got 2. Yeah, and I mean, I list those guys out again. Phillips with 18 led the team. He was 23rd in major leagues in saves last year. Obviously, Phillips was hurt for a while, so that factored in. But my point is that the saves were spread across 14 different Dodgers had saves last year. Nobody had more than 18. Again, if Phillips had been healthy, maybe that number's closer to 30. You could probably factor in he gets the 10 that Hudson got and maybe 5 or 6 from Kopech as well. But Kirby Yates, by the way, was 7th in Major League Baseball. Tanner Scott was 19th in Major League Baseball. So both had more saves than anyone on the Dodgers last year. But that'll be interesting. I mean, if I put the over-under at 24.5 saves, do you think Tanner Scott gets more than 25 or more saves next year?
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
think
that would be a bet on health, right? Because Phillips probably gets to 25 or more last year if he's healthy.
yeah.
I think Scott gets there. I don't think we're going to see 45 to 50 like a guy like Ryan Helsley last year, but I think somewhere in that 25 to 35 range is where a guy like Tanner Scott lands.
Yeah, I agree, and that's still what I find most interesting about this is theory. And look, that because Dave Roberts comes out and tells MLB Network on February 9th that Tanner Scott's our closer to start the season, we could get to May 1st. We could get to the Dodger Stadium opener, and they could decide internally, actually, guys, this is what we're going to end up doing, and that we won't necessarily know about it. The players will know, and that'll be it. I still, though, am surprised from the standpoint is they could have kept with the philosophy that they have sort of had, and basically what I envisioned with the experience, with the success of the relief pitchers in this bullpen now, Yates, Scott, Kopech,
Phillips.
Yeah, but if those three maybe you
Yeah.
wanted to kind of rotate, like you're the closer for these 2 nights, and then when you're not available, we need to get you rest, then we're going to go to you. Like that would have made a little bit more sense. And if they told Phillips and Trinan, hey, you guys are kind of secondary on that tier, but we prefer you in the fireman role type thing.
Yeah.
Like that's what I was sort of expecting them to do, not necessarily and again, I know that it's take it with a little bit of a grain of salt because things could change. It's a long season. I still was surprised that this early, Dave Roberts to say, yes, he's going to be our closer to start the season.
Yeah. And to your point, like there's a real chance that the Dodgers do exactly what you just indicated, which is it possible they just kind of have these guys set up? Because I think that would add to longevity. If you're trying to be available for October, instead of having the bullpen sort of live in limbo of like, am I pitching today or not pitching today? It's like, hey, Tanner Scott, like if we have a save opportunity, it's going to be you. If we need a fireman, Blake Trinan, it's you tonight. And, Anthony Bonda and Evan Phillips, be available. Like those are the 4 guys that are kind of available. And tomorrow, depending on how those guys are used, like I just wonder if they set up something like a rotation like that to see how it plays out. But again, for now, Gomes and Roberts both indicating that that Tanner Scott will be the first player to get save opportunities. For those who are curious, by the way, let me give you the other guys who got saves for the Dodgers last year. This is an A+ list. Yohan Ramirez, a save for the Dodgers in 2024. JP Fireisen, a save. Brent Honeywell, Blake Trinan, Dinelson Lamet, Ryan Yarborough, Landon Knack, Justin Robleski, and Edgardo Enriquez. It's like, which one name does not belong on that list? It's like you have Blake Trinan and half those guys aren't in the major leagues anymore. Half those guys are somewhere else. It's what an unbelievable list. So there you go. We'll see. We'll see if Tanner Scott ends up getting. Matt and I, if the over was at 25, would both be taking the over. I'd probably go under 35. Somewhere in the 25 to 35 range would be my guess for Tanner Scott. And by the way, Matt, if they win a bunch of games by 1,000,000 runs, you can't get saves. Tanner Scott will not be recording any 3-inning saves. I can guarantee you that at some point. So